everybody, it's Kathy at Northstar Prepsteader here in west central Minnesota. Well, it's getting towards the end of September and there's so many signs of fall right now. All the trees are turning, the leaves are dropping, the geese have been flocking and flying south, and a lot of my plants in my garden are starting to come to the end. So it is time for me to start putting my garden to bed for the winter. And one of the things I need to do is finish harvesting everything. I just cut all the blossoms from my calendula plants, and they will keep blooming until they freeze, but I have more than enough. And right now I just need to finish things up because I have some projects to do before winter comes, and if I don't get things out of my garden, I'm not going to get to them. So I want to show you around my garden before I start stripping it down so you can see where things are at. This is my fall garden. I still have marigolds that are growing like crazy. Look at this mini Greek basil. It is still doing fabulous. I'll do one last harvest out of this and then pull them up. The lettuce, everything's bolted, but there are a few leaves that are possible, but now I'll probably pull it all. My raised bed of tomato plants are doing fabulous. I did top everything off because they were growing higher than my stakes. So you can see where I cut them so that they wouldn't grow anymore. And in doing that, the energy can go into the tomatoes. But you can see I've got lots of clusters. I don't know what happened to this one. It's kind of crazy. A lot of them are just starting to get the blush. Some are halfway there. But there are a lot of places that pests are starting to get to them, and the birds and everything. So I just need to... But I have some really gorgeous tomatoes here. I wish I could just let them ripen on the vine, but we are going to be down in the 40s in a few days, and I don't want these to freeze off. I also don't want, like I said, the pests to get to them. If you can see what I've got here, some more inside. Lots of good tomatoes yet here. Now some of these are really green, so I'm hoping that they will ripen okay. These are my last little bit on top. You got little itty bitty ones, but yeah, it's just time to pull them. Time to get them in the house. Step back here a bit. You can see it looks like just a mound of vegetation there, but I have 12 tomato plants in there on stakes. And I trimmed them so that they would continue to go up just on a single stem. And they produced very well this way. I mean, look at these. I've already harvested a lot out of this plant, and some of these are actually leaning against one another, but they're doing pretty good. And you can see that now the plants are starting to fade and to suffer a little bit from the weather, from growing for so long. I mean, these actually started 6 months ago, and they've been growing very, very well. I mean, look at, I still have so much new and fresh vegetation on the top here. I almost hate to see them go, but it's time. Like I said, I have to prepare the beds for winter. Now overall, the tomato plants in the containers on the side of my fences fared very poorly. I mean, look at this poor little plant. Between the hail and the bugs and the heat and the drought, and that's about the size of the tomatoes I got and the condition that they were in. This little plant is mostly dead, except for a few tomatoes are coming, so I'm going to pull those and get rid of that container. This one plant did better than the others. In fact, it still has some blossoms on there, but it still didn't do very well. It only produces very small tomatoes. And these are all big boys too. That's all the bigger they were. So, yep, that one and this one, they just did not do well. And this one is completely dead. So I need to pull all that. This plant is reviving a little bit. I mean, you can see the new greens and new blossoms, but this is the only tomato on it. Oh no, there's a couple more here. They're very small and they've been attacked by something, so it's just not worth it to keep it going at this point in time when we are probably within 2 weeks of a frost here. And this plant again is starting to perk up and go forth, but look at what's happened to these tomatoes again, just being attacked by things. So the peppers, these are my paprika peppers, and they're succumbing to weather and pest conditions here. My bell peppers have actually survived. They're pretty perforated between the bugs and the hail. Look, I'm still getting blossoms, still getting new growth on here. I actually have a pepper here, but I don't know how good it is. I mean, it's small, but it might be pretty good. We'll have to see. And I think that's the only one that's really growing out here. So time to pull the pepper plants too. Ah, my poor little butternut squashes. I have 2 pots with a total of 7 plants, I think, that ended up coming up, and they just didn't do anything. That's the only one I have. Well, I had one other one, but that got ruined in the hail. It just doesn't do in pots. I'm never doing pots again with those, not with the squash. My lemon balm established really well. I think I'm going to cut that back. Now, if any of you know if I can store these out here in the winter, let me know. Or if I have to bring them in during the winter. These little onions are coming back. They had gotten ruined by the hail that came in. You can see it did that. And so we've got a few new leaves coming in, which is good. That means the plants are still good and they're growing. So I'll be able to get a few more onions out of there. Then my massive comfrey plant. And you can see the leaves that had been done in by the hail, and it just Swiss cheese out of them. But they're a plant like this, you can really never kill it. So there's a lot of new leaves that have been growing in, and what I'm going to do is cut this down, chop them up, and add them to the beds. So I have to clear the beds out before I can do that. And my herbs have been doing well. Still have plenty of big bumblebees around my borage. There's 3 of them out here right now that I see. So this is kind of what my garden looks like right now. And this is the state of it. You can see I've already pulled a number of things, as you've seen on my previous videos. The onions, the carrots, the beans are all pulled up. The spinach is done. So I just have to get to these other things and get them ready for winter. But first, I am going to start picking tomatoes. Here are the last of my tomatoes and 1 green pepper. You can see I have quite a variety of reds and greens. Most of these are pretty good. Like this one I can certainly let ripen and use that for sauce. I can roast that. But some of these others that don't have a really good skin, things like this, I'm going to have to turn into probably diced tomatoes. So this one will be a mix of diced and sauce. Definitely a lot of bugs and mosquitoes out here yet, but it's one of the reasons we really like that first frost that comes through here, because it gets rid of the mosquitoes very nicely. So the fall cleanup has begun. See, my beds are starting to get much more bare. I pulled the peppers over there, pulled all the tomatoes here. It's going to take me a little while to get through the containers, so I'll leave those for another day. There's my tomato bed. It's 3 feet by 6 feet. So in 18 square feet, I planted 12 plants. And I've gotten maybe 75 pounds of tomatoes out of this little spot. Not too bad. Not too bad at all. So I want to show you the root systems of the tomato plants. This is where the roots were when I planted them. And this is all the roots that grew out that were under the dirt. So you can see how the stems continue to root. I mean, look at that. Every single one here. It's just got a hefty system. I had to use a shovel to get them out. Well, my work has begun here. I have a lot left to do, but I just wanted to show you what was going on here today. And you guys stay tuned for the rest of the winter preparations here in Minnesota. It always takes a lot more than some other climates. First of all, we have such a short growing season, and then once things are at the stage, we've got to hustle to get things ready. Even though the temperatures have been decent, right now it's in the low to mid 70s and very humid. We have a front coming in and the highs will be in the 50s, lows in the 40s, possibly the 30s. So our frost is coming, winter's coming, and we've had Octobers before where it comes in cold, starts snowing, and stays cold and wet, and so we're not able to do anything during the month of October. Sometimes we have a gorgeous October and we can get a lot done. I don't know what it's going to do this year, but by the beginning of October I pretty much have to have everything prepped. You guys take care, God bless, and always have hope. Bye.